Will MAGA Republican governor of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, be going to jail? We've been covering a scandal that has been referred to as Lectern Gate, where Sarah Huckabee Sanders used taxpayer funds to acquire purportedly a lectern for $19,000 back in June. But a lot of questions surround this lectern purchase. Why was it purchased from Sarah Huckabee Sanders' close friend, Virginia Beckett at Beckett Events LLC? Why are the invoices to Beckett Events LLC tampered with after the fact with things like for reimbursement, even though those notations were not there from the outset? Beckett Events LLC does nothing with respect to lecterns at all. Where is the lectern? Even at most, a Falcon lectern, a top of the line lectern, would cost about $7,500, but this is believed to be a fake lectern. So as this whole scandal has unraveled, what appears to have happened is that Sarah Huckabee Sanders, for reasons that we can speculate, wanted to transfer a large sum of money just under the reporting limits of $20,000 to Sarah Huckabee Sanders' friend Virginia Beckett and Virginia Beckett's partner, who was also involved in the January 6th insurrection, Hannah Stone. Yes, folks, this gets deep. They all took a trip together. It looked like a very lavish trip back in June. That's when this $19,000, just underneath a reporting limit for it to get raised to the next level, was done. So what is going on here? There could be crimes of wire fraud. There could be crimes of tampering with public records. This all started, though, with the work of Matt Campbell. As you know from our Lectern Gate reporting here, Matt Campbell does the FOIA request. He runs the blog Blue Hog Report. We'll be working for the Arkansas Times in the coming weeks, but his sleuthing broke this story wide open, where he noticed, let's pull that back up, Salty, right there, that $19,000 charge for Beckett Events LLC. That's weird. Virginia Beckett, what does that have to do with anything? As the layers unraveled, Sarah Huckabee Sanders claimed it was for a lectern, but no one's even seen this lectern. And now Matt Campbell has filed another lawsuit. Matt Campbell is pushing for more records. And rather than just listen to me talk about, let's talk to the hero in this saga, Matt Campbell. Welcome to the MeidasTouch Network. So, Matt, we've done a few videos on Lectern Gate. The first one did about 1.3 or 1.4 million. The second one did about the same. The third one's creeping up there, hasn't quite hit 1 million yet, but this is all thanks to your reporting. And what that tells me with numbers like that is that people are pissed off at the corruption that you helped expose.
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of at the beginning, I guess living here and knowing Sarah Sanders from before even being in Trump's orbit, I underestimated, I think, a little bit how polarizing she is nationally. I knew that it should be polarizing here, but nationally, I didn't really expect this to take off the way it did. And considering that it started just from a throwaway comment that I made on Twitter, it still kind of cracks me up that this has gotten as big as it has.
So tell us about, there's a new lawsuit that you filed. And, for those who don't know you, Matt, when you find that corruption and you see that a lawmaker, and you don't care whether it's Democrat, Republican, Independent, whoever is misusing funds, when they start doing that politician thing where they start covering it up, you've got the Matt Campbell blue hog sense. I was going to say the Spidey sense. And so what's so incredible for me to watch as like a former litigator who sometimes lives vicariously through current litigation like Tom Mars and others. But when I watch your work, it's just so clear that you've got this spidey sense for exactly where they're trying to cover it up. And then you see that point and then you go right for it, right? Right away. So what's that point right now that you focused on as you've brought the most recent lawsuit in the past few days?
Well, when after the story started to unfold, I guess it would have been September 11th was when they started the special session. And that's when I tweeted that about Beckett at first. And then come to find out, the state agency that has most of those records immediately reached out to the governor's office and said, "Hey, did you guys ever receive this $19,000 lectern that we paid for a couple months ago?" And the governor's office responded immediately with, "Yeah, it was delivered on August 9th via freight carrier." And nobody has seen any sort of delivery records, bills of lading, anything like that. I asked for the shipping information, delivery documents, just any proof at all, because the invoice when they ordered it doesn't have anything about who's going to deliver it or how or when. So I asked the governor's office for those same documents, since they're the ones claiming it was delivered on August 9th. And they just immediately tried to hide behind a state FOIA exemption that covers unpublished communications and working papers of the governor. And a bill of lading or other delivery documents isn't going to fall into that by any stretch of the imagination. But they have just taken this position from day one that every document that the guy has in her possession is somehow exempt from disclosure. And they're wrong. And, the court's going to tell them they're wrong when we get to court on this thing. But they've sort of taken that position since they came into power of just, they know that you can't get attorney's fees on the back end in a FOIA suit against the state here. And I think they just made the decision from the beginning. Most people aren't going to hire a lawyer to sue if they're going to have to pay for it out of pocket. And Sarah and her people would rather just roll the dice and see if somebody's going to sue rather than ever give up anything like they should.
It's such a wild sequence of events when you think about it. I mean, you identify this $19,000 charge to her friend, Beckett Events LLC. Then their next excuse is that it is a lectern. By the way, they could have said barbecue. They could have said an event. They could have said a statue. They could have said anything, but they picked lectern. And then so your natural next response was, well, that's a very expensive lectern for $19,000. So now can you show me the documents and the data? So then they show an invoice that just is $19,000. And later turns out that in September, as you dug deeper, the Arkansas administrative office, they were asked to make some changes on the actual invoice itself and to write for reimbursement so they could claim the Arkansas Republican Party was then reimbursing it. But then if Arkansas Republican Party was going to reimburse it from the outset, then why were you using taxpayer funds before that? So it absolutely makes no sense at all that you would then use taxpayer funds, then ask the Arkansas Republican Party for reimbursement. But now you've asked a very basic question. Okay, you are going with lectern. So now show me the things that you may need when you're acquiring a $19,000 lectern. Show me the shipping documents. Show me the specs. Show me the communications that relate to the configuration of this lectern. Show me all of the details that one would expect to see in a purchase of a lectern. And the response that you got is, this is an exemption. We cannot show you. We say it's a $19,000 lectern, and we at government, you better believe us and just shut up, Matt, and go away. And you're saying, I'm not going away. Just give me the basic documents to show me that this lectern is real. And by the way, if the lectern is real, then we can have another conversation, which is, was that an appropriate expenditure of taxpayer funds where Arkansas is lagging behind every other state in healthcare and education? Does that make sense that there's a $20,000 purchase of a lectern? But if it's a legitimate purchase of a lectern, we're all okay with that debate. But what Sarah Huckabee Sanders wants to say is, we can't even have this discussion. Just trust me. I can willy-nilly purchase anything I want, just claim that's what it's for, even if it's not for that, and I'm using it to launder or funnel money to my friends, and go screw yourself. And Matt Campbell, you're saying, I'm gonna hold you accountable. Here's the next lawsuit that you get. And by the way, I think it is important to note that, like, Tom Mars, who's working with whistleblowers as well, he worked under Sarah Huckabee Sanders' dad. He worked in a Republican administration. Senator Hickey, from the Republican senator who asked for the audit, is a Republican. This actually gaining bipartisan steam. So what's your kind of final message, Matt, to the people in Arkansas as we kind of tie a neat bow on this? Like, where do you think this is going? And what's your message to Sarah Huckabee Sanders?
As far as where it's going, I've been doing this long enough that I'm kind of, I guess you could say, a bit jaded. And it's one of those, like, until I see something actually happen to her, I don't know that I can let myself believe that there would be any sort of consequences for her. She's managed to slide through, kind of her whole life based on the idea that, there'd never be any consequences for what she did. I think the bigger issue is, even as they've tried to sort of cover this up and deflect from it and change the narrative, for the last, we're going on 7 weeks now since the story broke. Every time she's tried, she's managed to step on, like, the few landmines here that somehow transcend partisan politics. I mean, just last week, to try to deflect from this, they released a story about how they were thinking about changing the designation of the Buffalo River, basically so that it would allow drilling and mining near the river. And rather than anybody thinking, hey, this is a good idea, or even rather than anybody getting so mad about that that the Lectern thing fell by the wayside, instead, now it's just, people can be mad about both. When you find things that are so sort of fundamental to Arkansans, whether it's the State Freedom of Information Act, wasting public funds, or the Buffalo River, those are basically the three things that sort of transcend party labels here. When you manage to do that, people are going to stay mad about all of them. You can't deflect from one by doing the other. And I think that's the part that she hasn't learned yet. I mean, this isn't like when she worked for Trump, and the federal FOIA shields a ton of stuff, that the president doesn't have to release. And this isn't like when her dad was here and didn't really have to deal with the internet and, the additional sort of ways that you can, I guess, trip up online. So instead, Sarah's just going into this blind thinking she knows everything and can do whatever she wants. And neither of those things are true. And she's sort of finding that out in real time. And I think that's entertaining to watch, if nothing else. Now we just, if something happens, great. I'm just glad that at this point, everybody is starting to realize, sort of how wasteful and shady all of her dealings have been in the last 9 months.
It definitely follows that kind of very Trumpy playbook, which, I say it's unfortunate that Trump's able to pull it off frequently with his base sometimes, where if there'll be a major scandal, just throw some other red meat over here. And so she thinks, look, I've got this big Lectern Gate scandal. What are we going to do? Let's ban words, everybody.
Yeah.
We're going to ban woke words. And so she does an executive order to ban woke words. And she thinks that's going to take people off the scent. But it isn't. It's actually making the scent far more foul. And, one of the things we hope to do here at the MeidasTouch Network is, frankly, to create the media network that never existed. While large national media, maybe they do one piece on, the breakthroughs in your FOIA request, and then they move on to the next piece of kind of red meat. We're going to do the Matt Campbell approach here, and we're not going to let go of this story. There's definitely a hunger for it out there, not just in Arkansas, but across the country on a bipartisan basis. People are sick and tired of corrupt politicians giving us all the middle finger and treating us all like we are stupid. And that is embodied in Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I want to tell everybody if you want to help Matt Campbell's efforts, we're going to drop the GoFundMe link in the description, and you can see it below. But Matt, Thank you for your efforts. Thank you for filing this new lawsuit. And what an update as well that Sarah Huckabee Sanders now is refusing to turn over the basic documents surrounding the Lectern purchase. And by the way, we haven't even seen the Lectern since she gave that weird visit where she allowed the Democrat Gazette to take like a photo of it. And it clearly wasn't a
proof of life photos like it was a hostage or something.
Matt, thank you for all your hard work, and all the credit goes to you, man, for your stick-to-itiveness here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, everybody, make sure you hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers here on the MeidasTouch Network, and have a great day.
Hey, Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.